don't work with your friends just because they're your friends if they're not very good. Without passion, it doesn't show through in your game, but passion alone is not enough for an entire program for the black market on national radio.
11 best games you said. Have you ever had a feeling creating one that, wow, this is going to turn up very good?
Yes.
Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Evgeny.
And I'm Anastasia.
Welcome to the All Correct Game Dev Show. And with us today, Jon Hare, co-founder of Sensible Software and creative director of Sociable Soccer. Hello, Jon.
Hello.
Hey.
All right. How are you today?
I'm not bad. It's been a pretty busy day. It's a really busy time at the moment, but okay.
All right.
I was a bit sleepy earlier today, but now I've woken up.
Okay, good. Would you like to add anything to my introduction?
Well, I mean, I've been around a long time in the games industry. I've been since 1985, so obviously done a lot of things. Sensible Software was my first company, which I guess we're going to talk about a bit soon, which I sold in, myself and my business partner sold in 1999 to Codemasters. I've done a bunch of consulting with different companies. Most recently, I run a company called Tower Studios since 2004, which actually I just sold about a month ago, just over a month ago. Okay. And I continue to work on Sociable Soccer, which is my current project and has been for 8 years. And I've done loads of stuff in the middle, but we'll come to that.
Okay, good. Well, that's impressive. Let us talk about that in more detail. All right, but we'll start from the past. What was the first computer or video game you played?
So I was born in 1966. I remember when I was about 8 years old in school, so in about 1974, there was like a school fete where you have these different games and stuff to play. Like bashing a rat as it comes out of a tube and throwing the ball in the hole and this. And someone had Pong, like an early version of Pong. I don't know what it was on the TV to play. And I remember playing that when I was about 8, maybe 9. So this would be the first time I'd ever seen a computer game.
All right. That was the first ever console.
It might have been. I mean, I don't know. Someone brought it into my school. I was a kid. I was too young to pay attention to that.
How impressed were you with the game?
It was new because no one had ever seen one before. So, yeah, it was just a novel thing to do. I mean, I'm competitive, so I was probably just trying to win, whatever it was. That's about it.
Every other boy does that, huh? All right, cool.
All right.
After that, was it like the first impression that you got? You were so amazed with it, so you wanted to get into game development, or how did you get there?
Not at all. I mean, computer games, there wasn't really much around when I was a kid. Like I mean, I'm famous for making football games. I played Sabutio. Do you know Sabutio, where you flick these little men on a cloth? Have you seen this?
No.
Nah.
You've not seen it?
Really.
Okay, so it was a physical game with a cloth as a football pitch and 2 goals and these plastic figures on like discs. Like football figures, and you flick them and they kind of roll around and hit the ball and you try and score. This was the main football game when I was a kid. I used to ask my dad to play every day. And, I mean, computer games, after that one I saw in the school, I don't think I saw one again for about 2 or 3 years. And then I moved schools to another school and a friend of mine there, he had like an Atari VCS, I think, in his house or some similar system. And we'd play a few different games. And then as we're getting a bit older, like in chip shops, remembering you're under 18, so you can't go into bars so easy. So in some chip shops, there might be a computer game. And then when I was about 14, I used to get a bus to school. And in the bus station, there was a small arcade had just opened opposite. So this is now, we're in 1980, if you like. And at this point, there was started to be these small arcades you could play like Centipede and Asteroids and Joust and these kind of era of games. And so I played quite a lot in there when I was waiting for the bus. And then I'm trying to think, I didn't have a console in my home until I was 17 or something like that. We got an Atari VCS. It was very normal. Hardly anyone had them. They weren't a thing we had as kids. They weren't around. So my first real engagement with them, other than playing them at the seaside in bits and bobs as people did, was when I started working. For me, the experience of games was neither as a player particularly first, although I did play some Commodore 64 games when we started to get into it quite a lot, actually. But I wasn't particularly a player or like a Demoscene person. There's a lot of Demoscene around. I just went straight into having it as a job. So for me, it was that almost from the start. After, I would say I was no more or less exposed to arcade games than anyone at the time, just a normal amount.
Right.
Obviously, I liked them. But you couldn't have a passion to have that as a career because that wasn't a career. It was
I guess
we were the first generation to do it, so there wasn't such an idea.
But that sounds so cool. I mean, you go very deep into the history. You mentioned you had consoles throughout your lifetime. You had experience with them. What's your favorite console in that case?
My favorite machine, hands down, was the Commodore Amiga by a long way. I guess because all the games in it were really good. It was a massive jump in technology. Working on it was a dream creatively. Yeah. There was no limitation from platform holders. We could do exactly what we wanted. It was quite easy to develop for. Hands down, my favorite machine by a long way. I'd say the next favorite for me is probably the Nintendo 64 because I liked Mario 64 and it was a game-changing game. I love Mario Golf and a few of the other Mario games, Mario Kart, for example, on there. That's probably my second favorite machine. And to me, I'm not a tech guy. I'm a designer. I started off as an artist and a game musician, and then became a game designer, which I'm now most famous for, what I do most of. The technology to me is always just an impediment about what it can't do, So to me, all the machines it just frustrates me that there's not one machine. Then all your old games would still be selling. So my view is very different from most people in the industry. Like I see that I've had in my career 11 number one games. None of them, apart from one, is even live to play anymore because the machine change kills the software. So if you'd written loads of like number one songs or books or films, people could still engage with them now easily. For games, unfortunately, they die. It's like very slow ice sculpture making games, And that to me is a problem. But that's my personal experience.
Indeed. Well, you basically started to develop games back in the ZX Spectrum days. How the games were developed back then?
Well, the very, very first game I had any involvement was even before then, a little bit. So when I was in my late teenage years, my mid to late teenage years, I was playing in a band. I'm a songwriter, so myself and Chris Yates, who we set Sociable Soccer up together, two of us, we started off as music writers together, and then we did software and games afterwards. About 4 years afterwards, we started to go in games, and Chris taught himself how to program, got himself a job. I went to his house one day, and he was trying to make a game on the ZX81, which is the old black and white machine before the Spectrum. And he was making a game called Sod Off the Sorcerer, which is just about a wizard trying to keep some dragons out of his castle and throwing things, magic bolts. And he was struggling to do the art. So he asked me, because I'd studied like art and things. So I had a go at doing the art. And luckily for me, the company that Chris was working for liked the work I'd done. So then they offered me a job as well as my friend. So we worked together. The first game we actually made together properly was a game called Twister, and that was on the Spectrum when we designed it and did the art and programming together. But before that, I did a bunch of small art jobs on various machines, the Spectrum, the ZX81, the Commodore 64, these kind of machines,
What kind of art production was that? I mean, I know a bit about art production nowadays, but how was art handled back then? I mean, now you just go to a software, you produce a 3D model, and then you apply texture to it, you're done. What was that back then?
Well, it was basically the equivalent of drawing textures pixel by pixel. I mean, you had complete control of every single pixel on the screen. So although maybe the downside was that you couldn't do so much with the machine, it wasn't capable of producing so many colors, such a high resolution, etc., etc. There's not so much memory, but you had control of every pixel. So actually when mostly we were drawing blocks, like 8 by 8 pixels or whatever the shape was, 16 by 16 of two different colors. Sometimes in like square pixels and sometimes in these brick-shaped pixels that were like 2 wide and 1 high.
Yeah.
And everything was constructed out of those. And that was what I was doing, making the art that then the program would manipulate and use around the screen.
Right.
And it was, to be honest, I mean, I've not really done 3D art. I kind of stopped being an artist once when we moved to 3D. But I still look at artists today, and I think that their 2D skills are a bit lacking. Like, because we had to do that, because that's all we had. We obviously learned about how to draw things and do drop shadows and these little tricks and things we did to make it look a bit better. And often I find people struggle with that now. You know, every game I've been on, there's always been a need for 2D art. And if anyone wants to skill themselves up in something to get a job, be a really good 2D artist. Because there's plenty of menus in every single game, and they always need 2D art, even to this day. So, yeah. But that's what we did for everything. Even the big pictures we made out of these little blocks. So, I'm quite proud of some of my early pictures.
Yeah.
Back in 1980, I think 1985 was the first time I ever worked in a game. So, yeah, going back to there.
Right. Sounds time-consuming to me.
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it is. But you've got to remember that the memory on the machine was less, so the graphical demand overall was less. It's nowadays it takes 200 men about like 3 years to make a version of Call of Duty. I used to do all the art myself in about 4 months. So it wasn't so time consuming compared to modern games. Yeah.
It's like I like this internet joke. That's the screenshot of a Mario game. Is actually larger in size than the original game itself. Like it's a JPG file.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Cool. So some countries still hold demo fests. You already mentioned that. You said you were not kind of a guy for demo fest. What about the UK? Do they still have it there? Are you actually particularly interested in that or not?
Well, it's interesting for me because, I've just been working for the last 7 or 8 years with a company in Finland where a bunch of guys were from the demo scene there. And before that, I worked for 5 years with some guys in Poland. And they all came from the demo scene and they were really proud of it. And then I realized subsequently that a bunch of guys in the UK were in this demo scene. I just never really was participating. I mean, it was like, I guess I discovered that our old game Parallax, which was the first full game by Sensible Software, our old company, I drew a character set, like an A, B, C, D, E to do the messaging. And that apparently is one of the most used fonts of all time in these demos, like my font. So that's my contribution. I didn't know, but everyone stole my font, which is cool.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. I know it's meant a great deal to everybody. I mean, personally, I think there's a plus and a downside to the demo scene. I think the plus side is that it got people into using the machines creatively and making stuff, which is great. I do, however, think that people who come from a demo scene background found it harder to make full games and the discipline required and the complexity required. Like, it's not about doing one aspect in a really cool way. It's about doing a whole...
Yeah, maintaining the standard that you presented at the demo fest.
There's a whole city that all works with no broken bits, with no bits missing because they're the bits you don't enjoy doing, like with all the pieces constructed. So I think that the downside of the demo scene is it encourages people to focus a lot and be really excellent on one small piece. But a game is maybe like 20 times bigger than that. And they've all got to join together. So I think that sometimes the expectation of people like me to make really big, complex games it's quite hard for people from that background because I expect them to think like we're constructing a universe and technically it's all going to work. And we don't sacrifice, I don't know, the reward system working to make the graphics look cooler, things like that. So I think there's pluses and minuses, but it's obviously was really big across Europe for many, many years and still going in a lot of places. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. I have this quite specific technical question. When I was a schoolboy, my information technology teacher told me that it was actually possible at some time to transfer programs via radio, like using radio waves. I mean, is it true? Were you able
I've got a
distribute?
brilliant example of that. So
Yeah.
I go out to Poland quite often. I'm going out to Poland this weekend. So 1 week every year, there's this Pixel Heaven. It's a big retro games festival in Warsaw. And for the last 10, 11 years, I've been going out and doing a concert. So all our old music, we play concerts there. And I was chatting with some of the guys, the Polish guys, who are all the retro gamers, and some of the guys I see there every year. You become friendly with them, have a drink after the thing, whatever. And they were telling me that on Polish national radio, they used to broadcast.
Oh my God!
Broadcast the entire thing for an entire program for the black market on national radio. On national radio.
Oh, national! Oh my God!
There's no concept of IP theft at all. Yeah. So, and I've heard the same story in Holland as well, but yeah, in Poland it's incredible. Yeah. So I have heard of it. Yeah.
Good. Well, did you use this method to distribute your games, perhaps?
No. We never pirated our own games. Funnily enough, we wanted to sell them.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps to your friend or something.
Yeah. No, we didn't. No.
Okay, but this sounds... to me, it sounds futuristic, to be honest. Although it was ages ago.
Wow. Yeah, you're going to go back to the 80s, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so you mentioned multiple times your love for football. You said that, you produced many football games. Where does this come from? How do you love football so much?
Well, I started being into football when the first game I saw was the 1970, I think, or 1971 FA Cup final between Liverpool and Arsenal. I remember happening when I was a kid, and my favourite colour was yellow when I was a small boy, and I supported Arsenal because they were wearing yellow, and I didn't know that it was their second shirt colour. I was too young to understand this.
They're red, aren't they?
They're red, yeah. So I switched clubs to Norwich City, which has been my team since about 5 years after that. But I don't know. I liked playing it in the playground. I liked watching it on the television when I was allowed. Like I said, we had Subbuteo in our house, which was this game with this cloth and these plastic players that my father even used to play with his grandfather, because it was the only football game we had physically that was any good, really, before we had computer games. So it actually taught me that, when my dad used to come home from work every day, I literally had it set up, ready to play. It's like, come on, Dad, let's play. Straight, as soon as he walks in the door, of course, he wants to sit down, relax, have some dinner and whatever. And part of the inspiration for making certainly something like Sensible Soccer definitely came from that time. Just having a computer to play against instead of waiting for a human being to turn up, being able to have all the international teams, which they had in Subbuteo, with a little booklet about a red and white team was Manchester United, but it's also Benfica, and it's also the Hungarian national team or whatever. So you learn all these kind of things. And I think that inspired me. And now I'm just, I don't know. I mean, what can I say about football? I watch it a lot on the television. I'm a Norwich City fan. I go to a bunch of games when I can. I went to the Champions League final on Saturday, which was amazing. Sat with the Madrid fans. And I did that bit where you swirl your scarf above your head and sing Champione, which felt good. And then I felt like a bit of an imposter and like I shouldn't be there because I'm not really a Madrid fan, but it was fun. And what else can I say? I play football. I'm going to play five-a-side as soon as we finish. I play for a team in Cambridge, and nowadays I manage that team and I kind of own the team or look after it financially. We were only an amateur team. We play in the university league with all the different universities. And actually, last season I just completed my 200th appearance for them, so I'm quite proud of that. Wayne, we win our own little trophies from time to time. So it's okay. I engage as much as I can, I guess.
That's cool.
I have this football-related question, but it's also about the image of the game industry, because like in Eastern Europe, the game industry basically emerged from kind of realm of geeks, and now it's a place like everyone is willing to be part of. Like, do you think that David Beckham is probably going to send his children to be developers?
David Beckham.
Yeah.
I learned today that he likes to be a beekeeper, and he was talking to Prince Charles about it. A beekeeper, yeah.
Jesus.
But I know, isn't that quite? I don't know. He might do. I'm not. He's got quite a few kids, isn't he?
Oh yeah, like a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Like a half of a football team. He has 5 of them.
Yeah, 5 aside. I'm sure 1 or 2 of them will be interested in some kind of media and possibly games. Why not? I mean, like you say, games were like started off being what the geeky, nerdy, non-cool kids did. Everywhere, really, pretty much everywhere. Because you needed, in fact, even more so in the old days. Like all the programmers from the old days were really brilliant at what they did. There's just so many like people I know, really brilliant pioneers, and you needed to be a little bit off the charts to do that, really. Nowadays, there's a lot of programmers that just did it for a job. But in those days, it was people, all of them really like pioneering in their own way. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So 11 best games you said. Have you ever had a feeling creating one that, wow, this is going to turn up very good?
Yes. Sensible Soccer, the only one. After 2 months, we knew it would be a smash hit, and it was amazing, and we couldn't believe we'd made it. It was.
Which year was it?
It was 92.
92.
Sometimes, like in our case, once, but you do something creatively. Maybe you guys have experienced this. You do something creatively, and you go, "Wow, how did I do that?" It's really amazing. And between us, we knew it was not normal to have got so many things so right so fast. Like when you make games, you make them, you tune them, you refine them. It's too slow, it's too big, it's too boring, whatever. This just went bang, and we went, yeah, this is it. This is all we need. So we kind of were smart enough to put certain bits of the code in a box, so we never touched them because they were good. But that's the only one where I've gone, wow. Well, because we all went, wow. It wasn't just me. It was a whole lot of us. We went, this is it. And we were right. It was our biggest hit.
Yeah.
So our intuition was correct.
All right. Well, what is your favorite football video game right now?
I'm biased. I'm going to say Sociable Soccer. But that's not. Aside from our game, apart from Sociable Soccer, our game, please buy it. Coming out on Friday. It's coming out on this Friday.
All right.
On Switch. So buy it on Switch. It's already out on PC. The update's coming out Friday. PlayStation, Xbox are coming very soon afterwards. That's what I can say. Buy our game. Anyway, thank you. The best other games I've played recently, I played New Star Soccer a lot. I thought that was very good on mobile. Do you know New Star Soccer?
No.
And I played a chairman game, football chairman, which was really fun. Again on mobile. That's it. They're the two I've played the most in recent years. Obviously, I've played all the other big games down the line. But yeah, SWOS is my favourite game because it's my best game. But right now, Sociable Soccer. Some people are even saying, which is great, I prefer it to Sensible Soccer now, which is good for me to hear.
Good. Well, actually, this is the time that we have to ask our listeners to subscribe and follow, leave the comments, and on Friday, go and buy on Switch Sociable Soccer.
Yeah.
Or PC. You can buy PC. We don't mind.
Yeah. That is also an option.
PC updates there as well.
All right.
Let's proceed.
Yeah.
Do you have a kind of dream game that you would like to develop?
Well, this is a good question. I think for me particularly, I've made a lot of games that I've spent a lot of years on that haven't come out.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I made a game called Sex, Drugs and Rock and Roll, which was a point and click adventure about like a guy who was a rock star in a band.
Mhm.
I spent 4 years on that game and it didn't emerge. So that's like a dream game that didn't happen. I made a game called CCTV, which was about being a police inspector looking at cameras all over this town
Orwell style.
trying to catch criminals.
Uh-huh.
It's a bit like Where's Wally. It's a bit like a moving Where's Wally, finding people in the crowd. With an understory about a crime, like the crime tree in the town of all the top 50 criminals in the city. Unfortunately, that never came out, so that was a bad one. I made Cannon Fodder 3. I designed that, which was like a follow-up to Cannon Fodder with loads of different people on it, where you had like spies and mountaineers and other characters, and it was in 3D, obviously. It was the first 3D Cannon Fodder, and it had every map had like 2 or 3 different ways to complete the map, and you had to choose at the start who your squad was out of a guy who was on the guns, or a guy who was driving a tank, or maybe take a spy with you, or a couple of, a guy's a sniper. Set them up, try and win the mission, and then go back again and defeat all the evil people in the world. So that was disappointing not to have that. We made even further back a game called Nintendo Olympics. Now, console Olympics. So the other console Olympics was you had all these different guys, like, I don't know, a really fat guy and a really tall skinny guy and a really small one, and then you chose your people, and then you were given from a choice of around about 20 sports, randomly about 4 or 5 to do in a mini Olympics. And you'd have like the really fat guy doing the pole vault and stuff, and the pole would snap, and it was just like a fun game where you had to choose the right people for the right event, and you didn't always know what was going to happen. So lots of comedy built in. That didn't come out. And even before that, we made a game with Sensible Software again, something called Touchstone, which was a really early adventure game about going like in an adventure world, but also going inside your wife's body to cure her, and then going to a soul, and then going to all sorts of weird adventure stuff. That was signed with Origin, who did like the Ultimate games, but unfortunately that didn't come out. I don't know. So all my dream games are all the ones that never came out.
All right.
All of them.
I see a pattern there.
The little dead bodies on the floor. I could bring them all back to life. And my dream is to just make the current game as good as it can be right now, honestly, with Sociable Soccer. And I'm not looking for what I want to do next. I guess at some point, if the opportunity was there, I'd like to do Megalomania online, one of our old games, Megalomania, the God game. It would be great online. But I don't have any real passionate dreams beyond making Sociable Soccer as good as it can be right now, which is, even though we're 8 years in, a big task still left to achieve that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've come a long way, 8 years, developing one game. What about like outsourcing some of the work that you do? Do you
we do.
You do. Oh, you don't.
Oh my God, we do. We outsource a ton.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
okay.
like,
what's a good outsourcer then?
How do you find
we use we've been working with a team in Finland for the last 7 or 8 years making the game. And we've just transferred that very recently to a team in Bournemouth in the UK. And we doubled the size of that team. And then there's about 4 of us in the core who's been around for a long time. Then there's other 14 guys who are like coming more into the core. And then we've got, we outsource all of our console porting. We outsource all of our back-end server work, which is done by a company in France called Altwy. We outsource our translations. We outsource our localization, our QA.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of stuff we outsource. Yeah. It's like, when you run a software company, what kills you is the wages and the overheads. So, to be honest, my company, running Tower, which I've been doing very much up to recently on my own, the only employee ever was me, because then you've got the least overheads
Yeah.
and you just don't pay yourself if,
Yeah.
if things are tough. And with games, you got to survive the hard years, and you got to enjoy the good years, and then you got to save money away, knowing the hard years are going to come back again. That's how it works.
Okay.
How do you find a good outsourcing partner?
Trial and error. I think you listen a lot to. Obviously, I've got a lot of friends in the industry, so with that kind of thing, you'll listen a lot to what your friends tell you and advise you. Like, these guys are good, or have you tried those, or do you know this person? You can look at obviously look at show reels or work that they've done. That's always the best way to assess anybody, to look at what they've done previously.
Makes sense.
And then the other part is hammering out a good deal. Are they reliable? Are they too expensive? It's you'll find out in the end if you like them. I think that they've got to technically fit in with your team as well. But there's lots of decent outsourcing companies out there. I mean, right now as you may know, that the games making world in the last 2 or 3 years has been pretty tough.
Yeah.
And this is because the money's dried up at the top in the investment side. And the reason that dried up is due to too much investment in NFTs and blockchain and rubbish. And basically took all the money away from the proper game developers. Whilst people pursued this emperor's new clothes of, making 20 times their money in a year, and ended up losing it all because it was just, as usual, another fantasy. Like, we get this in games a lot. People from the outside want to pretend it's not like it is, and they can control it in a normal way. And unfortunately, it's not. We're making games. There's an inbuilt risk in what we do. It's controlled by platform holders. We can reduce the risk by employing good people, but we can't guarantee it's going to go away. So unfortunately, the way the money chain works, the investors put money in. Once investors put money in, then the publishers have got confidence. Then they take games on, and they get developers to make those games. And then the developers look for outsourcers to supply them for certain additional content. And the outsourcers are the end of the chain. And that's why they're the first to suffer, because they're not getting money because the developers aren't getting money. And the developers haven't got money because the publishers have got money. And the publishers don't have money because the investment's not coming in. And the investment's not coming in because people spent it all on NFTs and blockchain and rubbish. And but hopefully later this year, from my friends in the know, tell me that this should change by the end of this year.
Oh,
so
yeah, we sure do.
Yeah, it's about investment.
Yeah.
But having said that, we've had a fantastic year for my company. We've had great investment. We've been, my Sociable Soccer has had an injection of money into it. We've had a company, we've become part of a media group. They've kind of effectively acquired what we're doing, and we've grown. So this year, early in this year, we've had good investment to prove that it is out there, and it's transformed our business. So we're in actually the strongest position we've been in for about 7 or 8 years right now.
Oof, that sounds
So
good.
yeah, it's possible. You need to have the right product and have faith and wait to find the right people. It's all about partnership making this. That's why companies like outsourcers are important, because they're partners.
Okay. Getting back to this, NFT and all this,
Stuff.
Modern stuff. Yeah, I would like to speak about artificial intelligence. What do you think, how applicable it is actually in game creation, and can it actually replace humans in this process?
Of course, it can replace humans in some more robotic jobs. There's no doubt. There's a bunch of processes in all industries where they're quite repetitious, and you can apply them to different products, and they can probably do them a lot faster than human beings. Like populating data tables in a certain way, these kind of very mechanical procedures. I think with art, I think they're really, really good for, they're really dangerous for concept artists. That's where you've got the biggest danger, where your job is to design a unique character. But I think that what concept artists have to do is embrace that. I think they have to actually work with it themselves. And then a good concept artist will be able to take an AI concept and make it into their own thing. You know, like really refine it and make it into their own thing. Because what AI is never going to do is give you exactly what you want.
Yeah.
They're going to give like really good ideas and concepts of what you might want to do. But if you want it to be exactly this, describing every single thing in words is really, really hard. But I think art is an obvious place where there's danger. Also music, a lot of musicians are starting to say, particularly, I think, music without lyrics, instrumental music. I think that very functional stuff is more in danger. So you could have an AI secretary write you a very boring, dry letter about, please can I book an appointment for the dentist on Tuesday afternoon, if you wanted. And I know that they put some of these styles in, but I think if you want to be really personal, it's hard for AI to replicate that. For example, if you wanted to write something that really hurts somebody because you got really dug under what gets them personally and frame it in the right way to really hurt them, I think AI would struggle to do that kind of work where you
just
really
gotta teach him, right?
Maybe, but it's that human instinct of knowing how to pace stuff and how to get maximum effect. That kind of subtlety is harder to teach, and probably. I was going to say it's a waste of time. If what we badly lack in animation is human style reaction to events. Actually, if we could have like a crowd of people and I don't know, an accident happens in front of their eyes, like a car crash, and then we look at the faces of all the people in the crowd and they're starting to react in plausible, shocked ways in the right direction with variety and stuff. That would be quite a good application of AI, actually, in a lot of NPC where the focus isn't environments. Because it's the subtlety that's missing. It's like if you're talking to somebody, if you're talking to someone for the first time you meet that you're attracted to, and seeing if they're responding to you in the right way, you're correct to read the signals. You're looking for tiny, tiny movements in their face. Probably, we don't even analyze with our brain how this is working in real time, but it's tiny, tiny, silent things that tell you how someone's feeling in their look.
Yeah, but you have to be a human to understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that it depends on the level we can go to, but I think lots of areas, particularly kind of semi-programmable things. I think there's a lot of work we can do with AI, actually, if anything, from a developer's perspective, to give ourselves artificial assistance. If you tell me what AI's best application would be right now, hands down, it is just being every human being on the planet has got a computer and a phone now, just being your computer assistant. So it says, in order to do this thing, all you need to do is go to this website, open this link, find your password, clear some memory, blah, 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 and then you'll be able to see that photo. And if you could just press do it on an AI and it did all the shit in the background and just solved the problem so that whatever you technically are challenged by with a computer is solved in one click, that is hands down the best application for AI right now. Because there's so much incompatibility, illogical things which just don't work, connections breaking down, passwords forgotten, what humans are bad at. So we need AI to concentrate on what humans are bad at and help us, I think, is what I'm saying. And once they've solved that, I turn my computer on and nothing goes wrong and everything works and every payment you make goes through with one press of the button without being frauded, then we can focus on the game stuff. Because that's more important.
Finally. All right.
Nice. It's good to hear that someone still, doubts that AI can actually replace humans. But yeah, everybody keeps on shouting that there is a threat Although
there's a threat to I think there's a threat to like low level work, but not high level work, really.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people still do low level work and they need this job. So
well, then their job might be under threat.
well, yeah. This is the cycle of life, I guess. Okay, right. What was the last game that has made an impression on you? I know what you're going to say.
No, it's not my game. Made an impression.
Yeah.
The last game.
Mm-hmm.
The best complete game I've played in recent years. There's two.
Mm-hmm.
Monument Valley and The Last of Us.
Uh-huh,
They're the two where I've really liked the execution from start to finish, and they've been really good. Mm-hmm. I really think Candy Crush is amazing. I mean, I play it still sometimes. I think its level design is perfect. Mm-hmm. I think if you ask me one game that I wish I'd have made above all others, it would be World of Warcraft, because World of Warcraft was just got the addiction loop, like totally nailed it and took people's lives away. It was that good.
Yeah, true, very true.
That was the one. That was the one to do. And like I said, Mario 64, before that was a game changer. There's a few game changers, but when I was growing up making games, there was new games coming out all the time. I would have to say probably the biggest of all time is probably World of Warcraft. Not necessarily my favorite game, but the one that was like the most wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, another question is, if you had the chance to take part in the development of any game, like that had been already developed or might never be developed, some kind of game of your dream, or is being developed now by some other studio, not you necessarily, what would be that game? Like what would be that game that you would like to take part in the development of?
Oh, you're giving me a fantasy game here. Okay, so what I would really
perhaps
what I would really love to see is what we have an absence of in games is politics and religion and the big subjects that no one touches because we're controlled by Sony, Nintendo, and Apple, and everyone who's scared of touching big subjects in case they get sued, basically, and lose money. Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately, there's totally untouched places where it would be amazing to simulate, for example, different political systems on a global scale and see what happens if you take away benefits from everybody so they've got to work. Just simulate it. Mm-hmm. If you increase farming so that everything's over-farmed, if you totally blocked immigration so no one changed country, if you totally get rid of religion so it's not there anymore to deal with, really big changes that would, to me, would be really, really interesting to see these things we talk about and everyone's scared to approach in real life because the politicians are so manipulative and non-realistic. And unfortunately, the weakness of democracy is you're always chasing popularity. The world has become a popularity contest, and you need so much percentage of people to like you, so you can never say anything that people might not like. So you never really deal with any problems. You just give all these big corporations power over us to do what the hell they want because no one challenges them, because everyone's jobs and livelihoods are wrapped up, so we never change anything. I would like to see games which challenge this, allow you to reshape it, and to say, look at my world I've made. In my world, there's no need to burn any fossil fuels at all. And this is what happened. I think this would be a really cool thing to have,
It is. Where does this game start from? 2024, June, let's say? With the situation that we're having now, all of this political catastrophe that's happening.
We could start now, but it wouldn't be really interesting to also start before and see what will happen if, if this was shaped this way, how that might have been. So, the game, you're giving me free reign, and it's very dangerous as a designer to give me free reign because I forget all the technical limitations instantly. But why not go backwards and go forwards and play out scenarios? And it would take a lot of time to make this thing. It's not an easy one. But that would be good, right? So I think unfortunately we don't. I've always thought this for a long time. there's a lot of subjects we don't touch.
Mm-hmm.
All of our content is vetted with very Americanized ideals of what morally acceptable is right now,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't always translate even to us Europeans very well, let alone people from totally different cultures. They impose their cultural policing on all of us to the detriment of many of our cultures right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see a removal of those barriers so we can do what the hell we want.
I would play that kind of game, I think.
Yeah, imagine how many scenarios would there be.
Yeah.
It's like you remove one circumstance and then everything changes, like the butterfly effect. Basically,
Yeah,
you remove
exactly.
something from
Yeah,
200 years ago and it's one way, you remove another thing and it's completely different. But yeah, that's a cool idea. Maybe that's something somebody might listen to it and steal it, you know? You
They
should
could do
probably
good luck
buy
making
out.
it. I'll give you about 5 years and you might get the first half.
All right. About the 5 years, what do you think the game industry is going to look like in that period of time? Let's say 5 to 10.
Well, if I go back 8 years, we started making Sociable Soccer, and then it wasn't so different to now, really. I mean, like, if we look back, we're looking back then just like the other side of COVID, basically.
Yeah.
If you flip back to the other side of COVID and a bit before, nothing's really changed, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
None of it's tangible. I mean, we've had VR's been flickering around in the background and never really broken through because it never really does. It can be very interesting. We've done some VR stuff that's been interesting on this game, but it's never really got anywhere. Like I say, the NFTs and the blockchains come and gone. I don't think we've had much advancement at all. I think that what we really need is you asked me what it will look like and what I'd like it to look like, which are two entirely different things. What we need is more curation. I think, unfortunately, no one wants to hear that, least of all people who don't make games. But we've kind of blended professional game making and amateur game making into one digital store, which has not been any good for anybody. It's the same with music and film and everything else, I guess. I think it's good to give people opportunities to do stuff, but it needs some reality check. It's like, I love football, but I'm not going near the football pitch of any professional club, and I've never been, even in my fittest, youngest years, anywhere near good enough because my quality's not there. And my view is with games, it's the same. You should not be allowed to enter the same field, stand on the same stage, be in the same app store as a professional game when you're clearly not professionally made yet. So I hope, unfortunately, all of our platform holders just want volume, or the big ones, especially the new big Bay Area, like your Amazons and your Googles and your Apples and stuff. They just want volume. They just want to sell handsets. Yeah. And for them, games were an afterthought to start with anyway, with the big phone companies. So unfortunately, our product has become diluted. And then our price points have gone through the floor as we sell to customers who can't really afford our product, which is kind of odd. So I would kind of like to see a tiering of games, an understanding of like a higher, mid and low tier, and actually different ways of acquiring them, so that we break that up. So for the consumer, it's better as well. They know what to expect. And for the people selling it, they know what to expect. It's not that we shouldn't allow people who are talented the chance to come through. I've taught for many years in games. I worked with BAFTA in Britain many times on juries and stuff. I like to see great talent coming through, but it can't come through when it's competing with 100,000 talentless people given the same window as them. There's something wrong about that, and that needs to be addressed. So I think that perhaps a bit more elitism in quality, perhaps a bit more deliberate differentiation. In other words, if you look at music and you've got like rap music, which not everyone likes, and heavy metal music, which not everyone likes, and classical music, which not everyone likes, but they've all got big markets, and they're not all mixed together as if they're going to sell in the same place. Whereas with games, we tend to mix everything together. I think we could have some kind of separation of genres, not this concept that you make a mobile game that everyone's got to play. You got to understand that not everyone is going to want to play certain games, and it doesn't matter. So I think that not being so controlled by companies hell-bent on world domination would help. We're an entertainment industry. If you do a good anything game, if you do a good, as it's proven, a good railway game or a good aircraft simulator game, it's got its audience. We need to get more to that, of separating the audiences out, and hopefully our industry will just mature that a little bit, so it's not all pushed together like you go to a bookshop, but they understand that kids buying little books about fairies aren't going to want to buy complicated books by Tolstoy. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. With whom among developers, game designers, or gaming company owners would you like to listen to an interview?
To me, the best games designer who's ever lived is Miyamoto. He'd be the most interesting for me. In the UK, I'm lucky enough to be friendly with Ian Livingston, who is our greatest games person in this country because of his history of making, being involved in importing Dungeons and Dragons, writing these adventure books, his fighting fantasy books, and doing games like Tomb Raider and that with Eidos and what he does now. So, but Miyamoto is I don't need to interview Ian because I could just meet him and have a chat with him over a coffee. But Miyamoto is the guy for me. Yeah.
Okay. Noted.
Right. Yeah, you're a pioneer. We get that. What advice would you give to someone just entering the industry, like game development industry?
Well, okay. So the first thing is that there's many, many different skills required to make a game. I used to teach in Westminster in London for 5 years about this stuff, and you break it down and develop game development alone into 6 areas. So you've got programming, art, sound, production, design, game testing, and then you've got all your publishing skills like marketing and prices and influencing, all that kind of stuff as a separate thing. But let's do the development ones. So I think understanding how the team works would be a good start, and understanding where you fit in that team. Like, well, what are your skills? If everyone's an artist, we don't have a team. If everyone's a programmer, we don't have a team. If everyone wants to be the lead designer, they're just going to argue about what they're going to do and get nothing done. If everyone wants to be a producer, you're going to tell everyone you're not doing it right all the time. So you need this balance of skills. And to understand, it's really not an individual pursuit anymore. It's a team game.
Yeah.
So know who you are, know who the good people for you to work with are. And the thing I noticed from teaching students is, don't work with your friends just because they're your friends if they're not very good, because it drags your work down. Now, that's hard, but our work is technical and it requires skill, application, and communication to get anywhere. And you can't be dealing with people who are lazy. I've seen so many examples of groups of young people working together in university, and you'll get 1 or 2 people in the team who just don't want to be there. They're sometimes, in the worst case, they're the lead programmer not doing stuff, or they're the producer who's not making an effort, or the artist who doesn't do the art, and it drags everyone down. You end up dragging everyone down with you. So the first thing is to give yourself a chance by working with really good people. And then the second thing is, however big you think your game's going to be, quarter the size of it, double the amount of time you estimate it's going to take, and then start working on it, because games are immensely slow and difficult to make. And don't wait until it's good enough to share before you show people. Like, don't go too early. Go there with something that can impress people. It's like too many people treat games. They say, I want a job in the games career. And they kind of almost are saying, I want a ticket to the party. They just want to be involved, but they don't really know what they're going to do when they get there. You have to have some passion and something to offer, because once you get to the professional level and you come to someone like me and say, I'd like a job as a designer or a producer or artist or programmer or whatever, then you need the portfolio to prove you're even worth us even thinking about on the pile of CVs that we might look at again. It's a brutal industry. In the UK, only 1 in 8 people that were graduating from universities actually get a job.
Oh.
It's brutal.
What do other people do? Jesus.
Well, they find other jobs. I mean, half of them, to be honest, shouldn't have been studying games anyway, if I'm really hard. But, you get 10 to 15% who are really good. And then you get another 20% odd who are either good for a games or a related industry, like they could go to programming or they could go to animation, or depending on what type of person they are. So, but yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's when you've got a job that anyone can do, you've got to be good at it. Because at the end of the day, you're selling a product to people that's going to be of a certain quality, or people are going to not be attracted to it and not download it, and no one will make any money. Then it's not a business. And if it's not a business, it's not a job. And then because it's not a job, you're not going to get money. You can't pay for your house and your car and your food and look after your kids and stuff. That's the reality of it.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Well, we've actually covered everything, I think, unless there is something that we should ask you but haven't.
I want to ask a question. Like, as you said, you can't leave off your passion. You have to have a job that pays your bills, right? But have you ever met people who actually lived in this kind of a circumstance? Like, they couldn't afford anything because the game they were producing was not bringing them any kind of a income. But then they kind of popped up. The game started becoming extremely popular or something like this. Like, huge success stories.
Of course, there are examples like that. There's examples all over the place where even in my career, we've had really difficult points where you're running out of money and, but you're close to finishing something good. I mean, once you get into actually making the game and actually say 50 to 75% of the way there and it's looking good, then of course you keep going, because then you want to finish it.
Of course.
But there's a long road between starting with an idea and getting to that point where you've got a 75% finished game. And it's really difficult to take that. Sometimes you've done something brilliant, but you've just been unlucky. Unfortunately, that happens a lot. And it's the time it takes to make games. It's almost good when you're start on maybe on a mobile phone game, in a very simple one, and just make it fast, because you're never going to make money out of your first attempt probably these days. Just make it fast, learn the process, and go in again, and start yourself off realistic. Some people, passion is without passion, it doesn't show through in your game. But passion alone is not enough. You need passion and talent, and most of all, dedication. Without dedication, without continuing that passion for a year, 2 years, you're not going to achieve anything. It's just like a dream that comes and goes. So it's application and that. There's no science, and unfortunately, some people will be really brilliant and lose, because that's what happens. Like, the timing doesn't work for them. Just that's it. I don't know what to say. The more you try, the luckier you get, is what they say.
Nobody's like, sounds to me like it. You have to have a lot of discipline, and like talent is 10% of it, and then your discipline is like 90.
Yeah, you need, and you need, often you get, it is like sport, I guess, and often you get people who, they want to be one thing, like they want to be a programmer, they want to be a designer, but you know what? They're a really good game producer. They're really good at managing people.
Yeah.
But they don't, that's not what they thought was cool. So it's a matter of understanding you can let go of the role. Like, it's like in football, you want to be the goal scorer, but actually you're a really good defender, because you're good at kicking people, So yeah, as long as you're part of the team, you're in. That's all that matters. We can't all be the top goal scorer. We can't all be the lead singer. We can't all be the lead prima ballerina, There's a whole other lot of ballerinas and other people on the stage at the same time. So it's like that. It's having the focus on who you are and how you fit in with this. And then over time you learn, we all start off junior, and over time we learn more seniority and whatever. And eventually, I guess, I've been in this role for a long time now, but you get to the level with me where I'm like a creative director or a professor in a university. Everyone listens to you and goes, oh, wow. But you started off as like the junior. Everyone does. It's just making your way up the ladder.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Game, thank you. Yeah, well, actually, we've run out of questions, I think.
But that was...
Yeah, perhaps you would like something to add.
No, this has been fun, and it's great to speak to some people in Serbia. I'm a big enthusiast on like general culture and how that works, especially European culture.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
A pleasure.
It was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank both of you. Okay, take care.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.